Why do older people like to get young teens involved in drug activity?
Um, like I said, there are various reasons. One of the reasons is that the teenagers are not as noticeable as an adult. If I see a teenager riding his bicycle or walking to the park with a basketball in his hand, I'm not more likely to conduct a field interview with a child um, versus an adult in most situations. Like I said, the teenager is not as visible as far as being someone involved in the drug distribution as an adult is. So some older people they tend to teach them the way and teach them not to be as noticeable.
How how do teens feel when teens get caught up in the situation doing drug activity?
Read the question again.
How do teens feel when teens get up in hold on? How do teens feel when they get caught up in the situation doing drug activity?
It all depends on the teen. Um, a lot of times, whenever teenagers get themselves involved into criminal acts, they really don't understand the consequences behind it. So, uh, a small bag of marijuana compared to a bag of crack carries different weights, different stipulations. So, in a lot of cases, it affects them in different ways. Some care and some really just they don't.
And some teens they feel as if, hey, I'm not a legal adult at this time, and when I make 17, everything I did prior to being 17 years old, that record is going to be expunged or thrown away, which is a myth. That is not true. Um, so that's why some teens have this attitude as if they don't care because they feel as if, hey, I can do whatever I want. I can act out now as long as I do it before I become a legal adult of the state. So that's why in some cases you have that I don't care attitude. It doesn't bother me because they feel as if they can, get an easier, smaller sentence being that they are currently a juvenile.
That also falls in line with the first question too. Why sometimes adults will get the juveniles or teens caught up in it.
Because they'll get a smaller sentence.
Hmm.
Are there many teens being raised under the drug activity already?
When we say being raised, you mean like being taught this way by their parents? Um, I'm not saying it doesn't exist because it does, but I think there are more teens that are not being raised by their parents to do so. The average parent does not want their child to do that. Even if their parents is involved with that, they do not want their child to do that. They want their child to have a better life. That's in most cases, but not all. And unfortunately, there are some cases that where parents do teach their kids the ropes, the quote unquote way to actually distribute drugs or be involved in the different activities that come along with that.
How does the separation of parents really get young teens started in the drug activity?
Um, me personally, I don't feel as if separation of parents has a great effect upon one's decision to be involved with drug activities. In today's in this era in today's society, most people come from a single parent home. Um, maybe you, for instance, you may come from a single parent home, but you didn't choose to be a part of drug activity. Because in certain cases, you have people who were given everything in life, who had a great life, who went to a private school with the best education, and they still decide to be a part of the drug activity. So I don't feel as if, being in a separate home has a direct effect upon one's choice to be a part of drug activities.
How does the separation of parents? I read down.
Hmm.
Why are there still many teens involved in drug activity today?
Like I said, I think it was the second question. The reason why there are still teens that are involved in drug activities because they feel as if, being that they are a teenager, they are not a legal adult of the state, that they can do these things and get away with it, and they will not exist upon their record as they become an adult. You know, a lot of them are just not aware of the consequences thereof. They're not aware that this will stop them from getting a job when they do become an adult. They're not aware that they will never be able to get in college if they're a convicted felon. They're not aware they won't be able to go to the military. They don't know these things. They don't know that every time most jobs require a background check and it will still be on their record. So I think it's just a lack of knowledge of the consequences why those that choose to do so in most cases they're just not aware of the longevity of this issue.
Um, what do you think is the main contributor of youth, young teens getting involved in drug activity?
Um, I That's a question that's that everyone wants an answer to. I think it's a choice. I think it's just the image of they see the big they see the big picture the big things like the flashy cars, the bulks of money, and things of that nature, and they don't realize that it's not long term. But I think they see a fast money and think they won't get caught. That's my only reason that I can see why they would actually even consider being a part of that, because they see what's right there in front of them and not what happens in in long term.
How do you think a parent feels when their child doing drug activity?
Well, I don't think. Well, the average parent, you know, I don't think anyone, brings a child in this world and expecting their child to be someone who will be involved in drug activities, whether they're using drugs or distributing drugs. So I don't think it's a joyous feeling for the average parent that their child's involved in drug activity. I don't think most parents want that for their child.
Most of the teens peer pressure into it.
Um, it does exist. It does exist. But at the end of the day, it's still a choice, to actually distribute drugs, because the type of person you have to be to distribute drugs is not your average person. You have to have mental control of those who are actually involved with you, who actually buy from you. So you have to become this person, a certain type of person, to be a drug distributor. And I think that's a choice. I don't think no one pressures you into this image that you have to uphold. A part of that image takes, the actual desire to do so. So in most cases, not all, in most cases, I don't think it's peer pressure.
What influenced teenagers into the drug activity?
Like I say, the things I think that influence them to actually become the drug distributors are, actually physically seeing the flashy cars, the flashy jewelry, clothes, the prestige of the control of everybody else, and the bulks of money. I think these are all reasons why, teens that actually consider being a distributor of drugs.
And some teens, to add to that, some teens want to be accepted. It's a feeling of
Acceptance.
excuse me, my allergies are acting up. Um, if they're teenagers and they're hanging out with someone much older than they are, it's some type of glory that they feel because of that. It's like, okay, they're not gonna mess with me because I hang with this person. And then for some teens, they look at it, that's the way that they have to feed their family. Some of them come from single parent homes, not all, some, and they look at it as a way of income. This is what I have to do to keep the lights on. This is what I have to do to put food on the table. From some, but not all.